Welcome into the Fantasy Football Diagnostics Podcast, where we provide you with your weekly diagnosis of everything fantasy football. Whether it's season-long leagues, dynasty, DFS, or sometimes even IDP, we got you covered all year long. Let's do it. Let's get to it. Welcome into the Fantasy Football Diagnostics Podcast. Today is Monday, December 19th. I'm your host, John June, and of course, this guy to my left is Greg Penniman, aka G Money. Greg, how you feeling today?
Feeling all right. Feeling, just finally starting to breathe after that wild weekend, which was sports. It was amazing. Probably one of the best weekends, if not the best weekend I've ever been part of. It was crazy. What football in both ways, American football and football. It was beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, this will probably be one of the only times I actually willingly will discuss soccer on this podcast. But yeah, the World Cup ending, the final was crazy. Was able to catch the end of it when it was tied 2-2 between Argentina and France, and then I mean, I'm sure the whole game was nuts because
Oh,
just like Twitter was going crazy and. I know that you guys are going crazy in our group chat, but it was, when I sat down and watched it from 2-2, I was just like, wow, this is absolutely bananas. So it must have been like that the entire game.
yeah, no, it was wild. Only because France made it a game like within the last like 20 minutes of the game, and then it just went off from there. So yeah, it was crazy. And then the Saturday football on was amazing.
Yeah, definitely. The Vikings having the greatest comeback in NFL history. Kirk Cousins, I don't know if you saw that clip. They said, oh, how does it feel to have completed the greatest comeback? And Kirk Cousins asked in NFL history, and the guy's like, the greatest comeback in NFL history, and he's like, in NFL history, and Tom Pelissero's like, yeah, and he's like, I'm gonna need a second, Tom. It's just like he had to process like
Yeah.
it's like we just completed the greatest comeback in NFL history. Like I'm gonna need a second.
Nah,
But
33, you gotta feel that. At least we were in like real close to it. 33 points is ridiculous. So
yeah,
yeah, shout out to them and RIP Matt Ryan, man. I feel so bad for him just to be in the spot again. Like it's time, man. It's time to go.
it's time to go.
It's time to pack it
Oh
up.
man. Yeah, it definitely a tough spot to be in. Definitely not as big a stage here, not as much on the line.
No,
But
no,
to
definitely not.
to to blow what amounted to essentially a 36-6 lead, because it was 33-0 at halftime,
Right,
and then
right.
Vikings get on the board and the Colts get a field goal, and so then it's 33-6. And from that point on, yeah, it was history from there. But surprisingly enough, Kirk Cousins and his performance do not end up in the top three performance of the quarterback swags. But our number one quarterback does come from a Saturday game, which also the Saturday night game, the nightcap, which
Insane.
was a really great game. Josh Allen, 25 of 40, 304 passing yards, 4 passing touchdowns, 10 carries for 77 rushing yards, and also got a 2-point conversion in this one, 35.9 fantasy points on the day. Greg, your thoughts on the performance here by Josh Allen?
Yeah, man, this is what he does every week. Led his team. The snow held up until the end, so that was good for his passing abilities for him. Get 304, got the 4 touchdowns, used his legs as he usually does, 77 rushing yards as well. A lot of QB design runs in those attempts, and yeah, I mean he's right there with Jalen Hurts in this MVP conversation.
Yeah, I mean, somebody was saying that this whole MVP discussion, we really then start diving into the definition of the award, and it's the most valuable player, right? And it's the most
Mhm.
valuable player. Is it the most valuable player in the league or the most valuable player to their team? Because you could argue that Josh Allen, you know, he is the Buffalo Bills offense. On a day where we're not going to talk about Stephon Diggs amongst the swags, right? We're not going to talk about a Gabe Davis. But we are talking here about Josh Allen as the number one quarterback on the week. And if you have him in fantasy, you start him in fantasy, you feel really good. The only place where you probably don't feel too good is if you had a bye week and you had to watch Josh Allen, use up all these fantasy points and this fantastic performance on a day in which you don't need it. But shout out to those that are playing and are riding Josh Allen to fantasy championships. The number 2 quarterback on the week, though, is probably the guy who will most likely be the MVP, despite how good his team is around him. Jalen Hurts, 22 of 37, 315 passing yards, no touchdowns through the air, but did have 2 interceptions. 17 times he carried the football, 61 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns on the ground. He scored 3 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah, now he is also his team. Like, let's not get this. He scored all most of their points pretty much, 21 of the 25 points. The team around Buffalo is just as talented. Yeah, this Jalen Hurts is the man. Crazy.
Yeah, man. I mean, 34.7. I didn't realize, like I was telling you, Greg, I didn't get a chance to watch much football yesterday. I was really just seeing highlights and things like that. But Jalen Hurts, I did see the QB draw or whatever it was. I don't know if it was a design run or if Jalen Hurts just made a decision there where it was just wide open and got a rushing touchdown out of it. But I didn't realize he had 2 more rushing touchdowns. But we saw something that we haven't really seen, from the Philadelphia offense, which is them have to play in catch up mode. And when that happened, we unlock a different version of Jalen Hurts where he's gonna throw for over 300. He's gonna run for 60 yards and a touchdown or 2 or 3. So yeah, I mean, I also say that because without AJ Brown, without Devontae Smith, is Jalen Hurts going to put up these big passing numbers? Maybe not, but we'll see.
True.
The number 3 quarterback on the week probably did not see this one coming because of 2 reasons. Reason number 1, Patrick Mahomes or the Houston Texans rather have not really been a formidable or they haven't been a great matchup for quarterbacks and passing offenses. And 2, didn't even really think that Patrick Mahomes was going to have to find himself in a position where he would have to throw the football. But that's exactly what happened here. Patrick Mahomes in a game where it goes to overtime against the Houston Texans, 36 of 41, 336 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns, also added 33 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown on the day, 32.7 fantasy points. If you were the Patrick Mahomes manager coming into this week, you probably didn't think that you were going to get much out of him. The running game here could have, probably would have been where we would expect a lot of the production to come from, but that's not what happened this week, Greg. What'd you see in his performance by Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs?
Yeah, man, Patty did what he had to do. This is, rounds out this top 3 that you'll see probably in like a 2023, 2024, like quarterback rankings, like Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Patty getting it done in playoff week 1. That's good to see.
Yeah, that's a great point there as we look forward to 2023. But let's round out the rest of these quarterback swags. And the quarterback for the aforementioned Kirk Cousins, 5 Trevor Lawrence, 6 Joe Burrow, 7 Justin Fields, 8. Well, Justin Fields is my start of the week, and Greg's start of the week, Dak Prescott, comes in at 8. The quarterback 9, Zach Wilson, 10, Derek Carr, 11, Davis Mills, and 12, Tua Tagovailoa. Greg, did any of these top 12s stick out to you?
Our quarterback starts the week coming through, which is good. Zach Wilson, for those people that had the maybe pivot from Mike White to Zach Wilson, getting you QB one day in a great matchup. That's something we asked for, and maybe it wasn't a guarantee, but he came through, and that's something to be shout out. And Davis Mills getting that top 12 as well. I mean, he's definitely not sure why he was ever taken out. He gives Houston the best chance of being competitive in games.
Maybe that's why they took him out, because they don't want to be competitive. Yeah. But then it doesn't make sense why they put him
back in. Yeah.
Yeah, no, Zach Wilson for sure came through. I mean, it didn't look pretty. It started out looking pretty good, to start the game. But then as the game went on and into the third quarter, it wasn't looking too hot. But had over 300 yards, two passing touchdowns. Um, Jets ultimately lost that game. Did have a brutal interception, but yeah, overall from a fantasy standpoint, QB9 on the day, definitely. If you went to that well, then it 100% worked out for you. Um, agree with your comment on Davis Mills. Derek Carr, man. I mean, when you don't expect him to
That's what
come
I'm saying,
through,
bro. That's
he
what it is.
comes
It comes
he
through.
comes through. So basically, we should just ask, what's the initial reaction? Do we play Derek Carr this week? And the answer is no. And then so it's like, okay, so we're not even going to say it, or I think we've been able to say it before, but listeners just know.
At
Just go
Pittsburgh,
ahead.
that just sounds rough too.
It sounds rough. It's terrible. Not doing it. Wink. You know what to do.
Right. Yo. You know what to do, yo.
um.
Actually, no, yeah, you're right. Wink, you know what to do. That's what I'm gonna keep it at. That's what I'm gonna keep it at. Yeah, Steelers DBs though weak. That's what I'm saying.
Oh man, is that bad though? Because on the surface, it looks like a good matchup, on paper, but
uh,
then it's like, oh
we've already
man,
talked about it enough.
we've already talked about it too much. Yeah, it's terrible now. It's going to be bad. Let's talk about Trevor Lawrence coming up with another top 5 week. I mean, this is just ride him through to the fantasy playoffs, or I
Yep,
mean, to a fantasy championship at this point.
yep.
Um,
It's got the Jets and then Houston, and then ends it with Tennessee if you're playing Week 8. So, yeah,
oh man, yeah, the Jets one, which is this Thursday, so we're going to
then
talk about
Houston
that
too.
one. But
Yeah,
and Houston, but I mean, it's like the immovable object meets the unstoppable force.
I know we thought Dallas was gonna be a tough matchup, and he just they were in comeback mode. That's which is nice.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about some of these quarterback. Well, let's talk about some honorable mentions. I feel like there's really only one or maybe two. I guess we'll give Tom Brady his honorable mention, but like you said it, Greg. I mean they were up
13.
and then they were down, and then they were up again, or maybe not up again, but now they were trying to come back, and so similar to what he did against had to do against Kansas City, but Brock Purdy, the QB 14, a respectable day. Do
Mm-hmm.
we hold any, or do we have to recognize that this game was against Seattle, or are we, I mean, this is 3 solid games that he's had, one against Miami off the bench, which Miami's not really a great defense, and then we got Seattle, which we know is also not a defense that you can attack through the air. Do we have to hold these performances with a grain of salt, or are we going full force with Brock Purdy?
No, I'm on board. I was always, in support of Brock Purdy. He's under Kyle Shanahan. He's in a good system. He's got at least 2 touchdowns all of his games that he's played in, and they end in Washington. That's a attackable defense. Vegas Raiders still attackable in Week 17, and then they end in Arizona. So the schedule's nice. I think he's a great play for especially in superflex leagues who are riding him right now. Maybe had Jimmy G. And then if you're, maybe in a tough situation with you didn't get to get Zach Wilson from Mike White, maybe you could pivot to Brock Purdy.
Yeah, we'll see. I have some interesting decisions to make in our dynasty league. Um, as I have a quarterback conundrum, but we could
Mm.
save that for a later day. But Brock Purdy is part of the equation. Um, let's move on to the quarterback Jags. Unless there's anybody else who wanted to bring up for an honorable mention, but I feel like outside of
Nah.
the 14, it was a
Yeah.
wash.
Yeah.
Quarterback Jags. Those quite a few of them. Justin Herbert. Uh, just a fantastic matchup here
Yep.
against Tennessee. Got all the yards that you could have ever wanted, but only 2 interceptions, or no touchdowns and 2 interceptions. So definitely not great there. Daniel Jones did not fall into a QB1 performance. He did quite the opposite and fell in the other direction. Ryan Tannehill, who I was my stream of the week. This one was tough because ends up getting carted off at some point in like the first quarter, I believe it was. And then you get like the moments of, reminiscence of the Paul Pierce game where he comes back and it's like, oh, Ryan Tannehill is really not trying to lose his job to Malik Willis. Like he is really not trying to lose that job. Not that Malik Willis has done much of anything to try to take it, but just from the offseason when they drafted him, and he's like, my job is not to help develop a
Facts.
quarterback, and when he had the high ankle sprain, and he was like, he came back in like 2 weeks, and like
Ew.
gets carted off mid game, and is like comes right back. Like Tannehill's really not trying to
Hey
lose
man,
his
he
job.
got a second. This is his second career pretty much with Tennessee. Started Miami, so he's really trying to fight second chance.
Mac Jones had a great matchup. Just again, I didn't watch this game, but I have no idea what happened there, Greg. I don't know if you can speak to it at all.
I mean, nah, not really. Really, he didn't have a very good completion percentage. Only had 112 yards. They must have just been not moving the ball, but they did get it in the ground. And Rashad Stevenson, let's go.
Yeah, we will talk about Ramondre Stevenson in a little bit for sure. But yeah, they just you would expect Mac Jones to have had a good game, and given the matchup here. Tyler Huntley was just again, last time he had a concussion, but this time he was just absolutely terrible. And then Deshaun Watson, this is like 3 weeks in a row, and you could argue that the first game was had to do with rust or anything like that, but what do you make of it now? Like he's got a matchup coming up with, I believe, New Orleans, like which is no cakewalk from a defensive perspective. Is there any concern here with Deshaun Watson going forward?
Oh, absolutely. Like you didn't hold him your entire year, or just got him and wasted a waiver spot probably or something like that for him to not put up QB1 numbers. So I mean, it was a slight concern after week one. But if you don't do that within the first 2 weeks, like it's almost like there's no really he's not a start candidate right now, especially with the quarterbacks, no bye weeks. The teams that you're gonna be playing in the late year, like the Josh Allens of the world, I can't see him matching that. So yeah, I don't see really what his value is to teams right now.
Yeah, I mean, even in two quarterback leagues, it's tough, right? Like,
Yeah,
I would have been better off playing a Zach Wilson this week over
yeah.
Deshaun Watson, and yeah, it's just Brock Purdy would be somebody that could do you some good over Deshaun Watson, right? So yeah, definitely things to consider there. Let's move on to the running back position. Unless you have anybody else that you want to shout out from a Jag perspective that I might have missed, Greg.
No, we're good.
All right, let's move on to the running back swags. And I didn't even have to change this one because it was the same running back one on the week. And I think I said like this probably won't happen again, but here it is. Jerick McKinnon, our number one running back on the week, 10 catches or 10 rush attempts, 52 rushing yards, one rushing touchdown there, 8 targets, 8 receptions, 70 receiving yards and a touchdown, 34.2 PPR points on the day. The rushing touchdown was actually the game winner walk-off touchdown in overtime. We were talking off air, Greg. I feel like the Jerick McKinnon role here was really because of the game script, right? Like they were tied 24-24 and they were actually trailing to try to get it to overtime. And so Jerick McKinnon in those instances, he's the passing down back. So he kind of stole your thunder here for your start of the week, Isaiah Pacheco. But what do you think of the performance here by Jerick McKinnon, Greg?
Yeah, very solid. I mean, he's been a name that we brought up for waivers all year, pretty much to be a solid, real steady, PPR running back. Give you a safe floor in like PPR leagues. And now he's just blowing up now because he's in these competitive games. He shows that he's still a very talented player. The schedule is nice for him as well. Seattle, Denver, and Vegas. So, he's I think going to continue to be used as a pass catcher for Pat Mahomes, as dump offs stuff like that. He's got targeted. He's got at least 7 receptions in the last 2 games, so he's been really working.
Yeah, definitely somebody who I'm just upset because I had him in our League of Extraordinary People and I dropped him and earlier in the year. And so as with everybody that I dropped, Greg, they end up going to do magnificent, wonderful things, not on my
Hmm.
fantasy team. And yeah, I could have really used him this week as I need, Christian Watson to outscore Alan Lazard by 22.8 points for me to win. So
Very possible.
it's possible,
It is possible.
probably not probable, but it's possible.
Yes. Well, it
So
takes
I'll
one
take.
big play to start the game and on the first quarter. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Not feeling too hot about it, but uh, you know, Jarek McKinnon could have been the difference there. But anyway, let's move on to the number 3 running back on the week, or the number 2 running back on the week, who was involved in that ridiculous game on Saturday, the 1 o'clock game between Minnesota and Indianapolis. That would be Dalvin Cook, the number 2 running back, as I mentioned. 17 carries, 95 rushing yards, 4 catches, 4 receptions for 95 receiving yards, and what turned out to be the game-tying touchdown in regulation. And that was good for 27 PPR points. What do you think of the performance by Dalvin Cook, Greg?
Yeah, man. Dalvin Cook coming through in the time you need the most. Week 1 of the playoffs. Him and Jeremy McKinnon, man, helped me out in Dynasty. Both of my running backs. So can't really go wrong if you have the number 1 and number 2 running backs. It was a great performance from him. Got that 62-yard clutch reception on the screen pass. It was a beautiful play. Just showing his power to get in the end zone. Like, yeah, Dalvin Cook. Yeah, beautiful performance.
Yeah, man, another player on my fantasy team that has a bye week, so just like wasting these points, I feel like just using them up. But Greg, I'm glad that you were able to benefit from the points here. Dalvin Cook got. I mean, again, he's been somebody these last couple weeks has been a little underwhelming, but came through in a big way here for sure. And I guess it's a common theme here amongst these high profile running backs, the underwhelming weeks, but some of them been bouncing back, like this next guy here on our list, Derrick Henry. 21 rush attempts, 104 yards, 1 rushing touchdown, 4 catches, 4 targets, 59 receiving yards. A matchup with the LA Chargers can help do that for you, though. Derrick Henry, 26.3 PPR points on the day. Greg, your thoughts on the performance by King Henry?
Oh yeah, man. King Henry doing what he's got to do. Last 2 weeks has been pretty money for this for Tennessee. Now he ends the season with Houston, Dallas, and Jacksonville again. Who he just put up 121 on Jacksonville. I mean, the schedule is amazing for him. Last time he played Houston, put up 219. He puts up 200 yards against Houston like every time he plays them. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, 200 yards every time he plays Houston. That's crazy. Like at one point, Houston's just got to be like, this isn't going to happen today. Like this will not happen. um. All right, let's move on to the rounding out these running back swags, and the RB4 on the week. Guy played on Thursday, Christian McCaffrey. The RB5, Ramondre Stevenson, who I did not believe was going to play. Like I did not believe he was
Sleeper
going to
running back of
play.
the year, man. This man has been money all year. RB1 finisher. All those people that drafted Damian Harris for him, man, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. That's why we always say go for the running back that has the upside to get the receptions, especially if they're a big back like Ramondre and can profile as a 3 down back. But David Montgomery comes in at 6. Saquon Barkley, again, what a time to come back for your
Hmm.
fantasy managers.
Hmm.
RB7. Tyler Algier, words for you in a minute, sir, but RB8. Latavius Murray 9. James Conner 10. Raheem Mostert 11. And Marlon Mack comes in as the running back 12. Tyler Algier, I must apologize because I said, Tyler Algier has been very efficient on his attempts. He's been great, but he's probably not worth playing unless you want 7 points. And maybe I wasn't wrong, but maybe Arthur Smith was finally realized I should keep giving the ball to Tyler Algier because he's been pretty solid here. 17 carries, a buck 39, and a touchdown. Greg, I cannot imagine that when we talk about waivers, that Tyler Algier will not be one of the first names that comes out of your mouth when we talk about running backs.
Yeah, Tyler Algier is right there at the top, probably with Deion Jackson, but yeah, Tyler Algier is right there.
Yeah, most definitely. And you bring up Deion Jackson and potentially as well, I'm sure, Zach Moss because of what's going on with Jonathan Taylor, who, we're going to talk about, obviously, the Jags in a second, and he ends up on this list, but not for, any fault of his own, just mainly because he suffered an injury.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's going to be unfortunate. He's likely out the rest of the season, according to Ian Rappaport, just based on the timeline of his injury and the lack of competitiveness by the Indianapolis Colts in terms of their season and what they have left to play for. But Greg, do any of these other top 12s stick out to you?
I mean, definitely Marlon Mack, another name with kind of like Tyler. Well, Marlon Mack came even more out of nowhere than any other player at the running back position. So late season player that is going to help fantasy managers probably win some chips. Definitely got into the next round at least if you had some idea of starting him, especially after the last 2 weeks. So yeah, I mean they play the Rams next week. Looks like he's going to be the main running back for Denver. He could probably top 30 plays.
Yeah, that one hurts. The Marlon
Yeah,
Mack one because he was available in the League of Extraordinary
I'm
People,
sure
and
so many leagues. Yeah.
I thought about him. I considered him, but I was convinced, like I said, that Ramondre Stevenson was not going to play,
Mm.
and I went all in on Pierre Strong this week,
Mm.
100% all in. Yeah,
Mm.
all in.
Mm.
Yeah. George Cook says Saquon Barkley swag. Yes, sir. Saquon Barkley is for sure a running back swag. I mean, again, comes with a performance here against Washington that, you know, the matchup was good, but Saquon has been underwhelming these last few weeks. And if you needed him in the worst way, he came through for you in the best way for sure. James Conner again. I mean, he's been fantastic. With Kyler Murray out, I think this matchup here was great as well. Greg, is there anybody else that really stuck out for you in
Um.
terms of the running back swags?
Not that many. I mean, I'm glad J.K. Dobbins gave another solid game. And also, Eckler still holding it down in playoff time.
Yeah, yeah. So great segue into the honorable mentions because those guys were the first two guys on my list, Eckler and J.K. Dobbins. Eckler gave managers a scare because he was
Yeah.
removed from the game
Yeah.
in the first quarter, I believe, with an injury. And I just remember seeing a highlight in the fourth quarter and Austin Eckler just burrowing his way into the end zone for a touchdown there. So it could have been much worse there. To say the least, there for the running back 14 on the week. But Najee Harris, I mean, he had a really good. Ooh, bless you, sir. Najee Harris had a touchdown there, 24 rushing attempts on the day. Salvin Ahmed, that was interesting to see him have the day that he had. Looked pretty good in limited opportunity. And then Travis Etienne and DeAndre Swift, both guys that have been a little underwhelming in recent weeks, specifically Travis Etienne, and he came through to have a big day there. But let's talk about some of these running back Jags, these just guys, man, and there's quite a few of them that we have to talk about, and unfortunately, a lot of them are high profile guys, right? Like Nick Chubb. I mean, he's been on this. He's been like when did Deshaun Watson come back? Was that week 11, week 12?
Week,
Since then,
yeah, week
Nick
4-13
Chubb
against Houston.
Nick Chubb has been a weekly staple
He's been
on
a
this list.
standard running back too. Yeah, so it's been tough.
It's been terrible.
Yeah.
Joe Mixon, he obviously the game script falling the way that it did. He wasn't gonna get a lot of rushing attempts, and touchdowns didn't fall his way. Rashad White, you know, didn't didn't finish in a fantastic spot. Zonovan Knight, Bam Knight. I know the matchup wasn't great. Did also get rolled up at one point, but was able to come back and finish the game. He only had 23 rushing yards on the day. So if you were leaning on him these last few weeks, he did not come through for you. And then obviously we talked about Jonathan Taylor getting injured. So not his fault there, and we don't hold that against him. But just still sucks, if you were counting on him or roster him and things like that. And then Brian Robinson, this one is tough because he was my running back start of the week, but the NFL office, man, they got to do something because these officials. I don't know if you saw that, Greg. I mean, I'm sure you were watching the Giants game, but Terry McLaurin
Yeah,
on the
the
touchdown,
PI at the end.
not even the PI.
Or
I think it was a few plays before it. There was a touchdown. The Brian Robinson touchdown that got called back because they said
yeah,
that there's an illegal formation, and Terry McLaurin, you could see him. He's checking with the official. Hey, am I good? Am I on the line? And if the official, he said during that exchange, the official asked him to move up a little bit, and then he moved up, and he put his hands out, like his thumbs up, like am I good? And the official said, yeah, you're good. And then you could see somebody has a great video of it. The official, as Terry McLaurin, starts now, turns his head back the other way and is like now focused on the play, puts his hand on his flag before the ball is even snapped. And once the ball is snapped, like throws the flag. And it's just like, what is going on here? And then Brian Robinson touchdown gets taken away. If it doesn't, he's he's up here in the top 12 of running backs. And what
brutal.
was a great matchup against the Giants. And I'm sure fantasy managers who needed that touchdown, are probably upset about that today. So
Yeah,
uh, NFL has to get more consistent in terms of just the officiating and how they're calling certain things. What they're reviewing, what they're overturning, what they're not overturning. They just need more consistency.
yeah, absolutely.
Anybody else that I may have missed there, Greg, from a running back Jags perspective?
No, I think we're good.
All right, let's move on to wide receivers. And the wide receiver Swags, the number one wide receiver on the week. Man is killing it right now. And he's killing me in our league with starting people. Zay Jones, 6 catches, 8 targets, 109 receiving yards with the hat trick, 3 touchdowns there, 34.9 PPR points on the day. Greg, your thoughts on the performance here by Zay Jones?
Yeah, man, he's been absolutely bowling down the stretch here, getting people in the playoffs and now getting people through that first round. I mean, he's been absolutely money. Whereas Trevor Lawrence has gotten hot as well, becoming like the number one receiver right now, over Christian Kirk, getting targeted. I mean, 10 times, at least 10 times, 3 of the last 5 games, getting in the end zone. A guy that wasn't scoring touchdowns all year, and now he's got 4 in the last 2 games. So he's pretty hot right now. So you continue to play him as a solid wide receiver too, I think.
Yeah, he's absolutely killing it. So continue to stay in the flames with Zay Jones. The wide receiver 2 on the week, the Minnesota Vikings wide receiver that I'm sure we all saw being the wide receiver 2 on the week, KJ Osborne. 16 targets, 10 receptions, 157 receiving yards and a touchdown. This one had to be game script driven. This feels like I could fact check this, but I don't know if KJ Osborne has had these stats all season. Greg, what are your thoughts on the performance by KJ Osborne?
Yeah, man, KJ Osborne came through. I mean, last 2 weeks he's got at least a touchdown in those games. But definitely they seem to have found that matchup where he had the weak corner and they would just kept feeding him, and it kept working. So that them being down and then him having that matchup, it's nice. Usually you're making the argument for Adam Thielen to get all this nice matchups with Justin Jefferson getting all the attention. But if KJ Osborne could keep playing like this, he may be overtaking that kind of that number 2 role in this offense.
Yeah, definitely. Coming into this game, KJ Osborne had 300 receiving yards, so he had more than half of his production in this one game alone. So,
Yeah,
No, he's somebody that I know I may sound like facetious when I'm saying this, but like KJ Osborne is somebody that I think we both liked as a potential option, you know, in this offense as a flex play, a wide receiver 3 that you could play when the Vikings play in high scoring games, but that role never really came to fruition for him. Um, but yeah, no, definitely agree. Like if he can continue to separate himself from Adam Thielen, I think that would be really good. Let's move on to the wide receiver 3 on the week, and that takes us to the Minnesota Vikings wide receiver Justin Jefferson. 16 targets, 12 catches, 123 receiving yards, and a touchdown. 30.3 PPR points on the day. Had an I've never seen somebody fake the whip route before, like Justin Jefferson did against Stephon Gilmore, but absolutely cooked him on that route. Greg, your thoughts on the performance here by Justin Jefferson?
Yeah, man, he was cooking him all game. They were just leaving single coverage on him. A lot of those routes. I mean, Gilmore is a fine corner. He's one of the best in the league right now, and yeah, he still was giving him work, making it look so easy out there. 16 targets. I mean, it's beautiful to see when you're getting a guy like this in fantasy, just dominating. I mean, he's only had one single digit game since week 3, so it's been amazing.
Wait, didn't he have like back-to-back single-digit games though in weeks 2 and 3?
Nah, he had 10.8 against Philly. He's 6 for
Uh,
48.
it felt
So
like might as well have been
yeah,
single
it might as well
digits.
have been single. As we've seen what he's doing now. Man's got back-to-back 30-point games. He almost had 30 against New England. Pretty much, he's got 30 in the last 3 out of 4. So yeah,
He's got like
that's
290-yard receiving days and mixed in between that. No,
yeah,
he's been
bro.
he's been
Yeah,
he's been very good. He's been
excellent.
very good, which is why we had him as our number one wide receivers. So
Yep,
not a
yep. And
problem.
that got the Giants next week. It's even better. Nice.
All right, let's round out these wide receiver swags. And the wide receiver 4 in the week is AJ Brown. Wide receiver 5, Russell Gage. 6, Noah Brown. 7, Chris Godwin. 8, Tyreek Hill. 9, Jahan Dotson. 10, Jalen Waddle. 11, Deontay Johnson. And the wide receiver 12, CD Lamb. I chuckled before because Russell Gage, seeing him in the top 5 is just interesting because obviously I came into the year very high on Russell Gage, and he's done nothing along with anyone else in that offense. And then Noah Brown, giving me heart palpitations every time he caught a touchdown because I thought it was CD Lamb, and I have CD Lamb in our league of extraordinary people. So yeah, that wasn't great. And then Jalen Waddle, who I know I had talked about him leading up to that game, and I was pessimistic about what he could do. A lot of that was based on the weather, and as we got closer to that game, a lot of the reports were like, yeah, so
No, it
the
was a full
snow,
go.
yeah, it
Yeah,
was like this. The snow's not going to come until like later in the game, and I remember seeing a shot from the field and how it just looked clean, and like it was only 28 degrees, which is still cold, but like there
doable.
was no snow. I was like, all right, Jalen Waddle's staying in my lineup, like
Yeah.
he has to.
Yep.
Um, only had a 67, only had a 67-yard touchdown, had 3 catches. But yeah, no, fantastic day from Waddle. Greg, anybody else stick out to you from from these wide receivers?
Oh yeah, Deontay getting in the top 12 is good to see. For sure, out of the top 12, and yeah, Russell Gage coming through was nice for sure. Maybe he can get a little momentum here as Mike Evans kind of falls off with the connection this year.
Yeah. Let's shout out some honorable mentions. Michael Pittman Jr. came through and what was a good matchup. Rashid Shaheed, the New Orleans wide receiver, who I think is a fantastic, dynasty ad. If you play in dynasty leagues, I think he's somebody that could be out there that you might want to take a look at. Mac Hollins had a decent day as well, and then DJ Moore, who again another guy I didn't know if he was going to play, but then as the report started coming out Saturday, it seemed like he was going to play. So came through with a solid day in a good matchup against Pittsburgh. Greg, anybody else that stuck out to you from an honorable mention perspective?
Devontae Smith, who's been probably the top candidate for wide receiver sleeper of the year. This man has been very consistent after a tough week one.
Yeah, definitely. I actually have to go back and look because I feel like he might have been a sleeper of mine. I remember thinking about him. But anyway, let's go to the Jags, and this one again, some big name guys, Stephon Diggs. Um, which again, on a day like that, you expect him to have a good day with if Josh Allen's throwing for 300 yards and all these touchdowns. Mike Williams of the Chargers, had a big bounce, had a big first game back, but was mostly quiet in this game against Tennessee. Brandon Ayuk, who played Thursday, we were hoping that with Debo Samuel out, that we would see Ayuk, kind of elevate more. But that didn't happen in a good matchup against Seattle. And then the Arizona Cardinals receivers, I mean, that one's kind of tough. Colt McCoy got injured, left the game with a concussion. So then you get Trace McSorley coming in, who's not known for his passing ability or, being a very good passer at all. And so, kind of downgrades that whole offense there with both DeAndre Hopkins and Marquise Brown.
Yeah, tough performances for especially for that playoff time.
Anybody else there, Greg, that I might have missed?
No.
All right, let's move on to tight end swags. And would you look at that? The number one tight end of the week, another guy that I had to go against in George Kittle. So, 4 catches, 5 targets, 93 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns through the air, 25.3 PPR points. We kind of talked about his performance from Thursday on the Saturday show, Greg. But anything you want to add on this performance by George Kittle?
No, man, he came through. Big time performance. The performance we've been like kind of looking for all year. And glad it came at a good time here. So glad the people that stuck through, patient, pretty much forced to because you drafted George Kittle early. So kudos to you if you made the playoffs.
Yeah, and I hope I pray to God you didn't listen to me when I was saying to play Jeff Driscoll over him because that didn't work. Let's move on to the tight end 2 on the week. Touchdown or nah? I mean, just pretty much like put it in his name at this point. Jawan Johnson, the touchdown machine, 6 targets, 4 catches, 67 receiving yards, and 2 touchdown receptions there. 22.7 PPR points on the day. Greg, your thoughts on the performance here by Jawan Johnson?
Yeah, man. Since week 7, he's got 7 touchdowns. I mean, he's only played that's in 6 games. So he was hurt before the bye against Tampa Bay. Yeah, man. He's been on a tear touchdown wise. He's only getting about 40 to 60 receiving yards, which is he's still involved as a streaming tight end. But if he's getting these touchdown numbers, he's falling into the tight end 1 category a lot. So got Cleveland next week, Philly, then Carolina. I mean, especially in the tight end market, if you can get a guy that's hot right now getting touchdowns, stick with him.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. I mean, he was hurt last week, so didn't have that opportunity. That was on bye. So he's a guy that people probably forgot about for the most part. But let's move on to the tight end 3 on the week. Dawson Knox coming back from the dead, man. 8 targets, 6 receptions, 98 receiving yards, and a touchdown. 21.8 PPR points on the day. Greg, what do you think of his performance here by Dawson Knox?
Yeah, he's kind of basically coming back here. A guy that was super talented last year came through in a lot of ways, showing now in the last 2 weeks. At least targeted 7 times in both those games, got a touchdown in each of those games. He's, I think, pretty much in that streaming conversation for sure at the borderline tight end level. And I think you can play him against, in the next 3 weeks especially for playoff time.
Yeah, for sure, man. Definitely turn it on right in time here for uh for fantasy managers. All right, let's get into everybody's favorite segment and actually have to update the notes here a little bit, but touchdown or not, tight end of the week this week is really, you could look at a few guys but I picked the one guy who only had 2 catches on the day,
Mm-hmm.
and both of them were for touchdowns. So if he doesn't have
Mm-hmm.
either one of those catches, you're not getting a top 12 performance. But this guy didn't just get a top 12 performance. He got you a top 5 performance. New York Jets tight end CJ Uzama, 2 catches, 2 targets, 41 receiving yards, 2 touchdown receptions, 18.1 PPR points on the day. So again, you probably didn't start him. He was probably on waivers, but maybe you got desperate. Maybe you play in like a 2 tight end league. Maybe you have him in dynasty. Maybe you bet on CJ Uzama to score 1 touchdown. If you bet 2, then you must have a serious problem. Either that or you have some form of psychic abilities. But Greg, anything you want to add on this touchdown and not performance here by CJ Uzama?
Yeah, I couldn't imagine anybody having this player. He's 0% rostered in Yahoo. He's 0.3% rostered in ESPN. Like he's nowhere. He's what I love. So point that 0.3%, man. Oh, congrats.
Congrats. And even that 0.3% roster, like what are the chances they started him?
Yeah, even then.
Yeah. All right. Let's round out these tight end swags, man. The tight end 4 was Travis Kelce. 5 was the aforementioned CJ Uzama. 6, tied for 6, Noah Fant and Evan Ingram. The tight end 8, welcome back, Sir Darren Waller. The tight end 9, Mitchell Wilcox. Tight end 10, Brock Wright. The tight end 11, Eric Tomlinson. And the tight end 12, Jordan Akins. I sighed and got really upset in that moment there talking about Brock Wright, whose 1 catch for 51 yards and a touchdown is what put the Detroit Lions over the New York Jets. So it's a little upsetting in that moment.
Crazy, man.
Fourth and
Sweeping
inches.
New York out here. Came into MetLife both times. Got the dub. About to possibly make the playoffs. Crazy, Detroit, man. Crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Late season coach of the year, man. Definitely Dan Campbell possible.
I mean, neither one of us were surprised that they won that game. We both
no.
said that they were going to win that game, and I likened how Detroit is playing right now to just terms of not being expected to win some of these games that they're winning and beating teams that are perceived to be better than them to what the Jets were doing in like October. It's crazy though. They started how they started, and the Jets started how they started. The Jets have been 2-5 in their last 7 games. I've started 5-2.
Tough. That's tough.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, the Giants have probably similar thing.
We got the dub last night, so
Yeah. It's probably your second dub since starting 6-0.
No, because we got it tied too. So that doesn't count as a loss. So it's probably only like 3 or 4 losses. 2 wins, 3, 4 losses, a tie.
All right, let's any of these top 12 performances stuck out to you at the tight end position, Greg?
No.
All right, let's talk about some Jags, and there's quite a few of them, and they have names. Dalton Schultz, your tight end star of the week. Greg Dulcich, my tight end start of the week. TJ Hawkinson didn't have a great day. Gerald Everett, are we really surprised though? No. Was he? No. He was not. He was not, and he was not your stream of the week, right? No.
No. Definitely not my stream of the week. I believe my stream.
Mark Andrews.
Yeah,
David Njoku
definitely was. Yeah, not excited about Mark Andrews. He didn't come through.
Hunter Henry.
David Njoku.
Oh, that's who your stream of the week was.
Yeah, Hunter Henry. Oh, brutal.
Yeah. The David Njoku, Mark Andrews thing. It turns out that Mark Andrews actually did perform better than David Njoku.
Crazy.
But not that it mattered because unless you were playing David Njoku, Mark Andrews didn't really beat many other tight ends. So Jeff Driscoll, that failed miserably.
Taysom Hill, though. There you go.
Taysom Hill was like, you guys think I'm a bootleg version of Jeff Driscoll?
Facts.
Hold my beer real quick."
Facts.
And then Logan Thomas, who I like, was throwing out there as a potential stream. I did say with caution, and it was risky. But yeah, he did not come through at all. All right, let's discuss some injuries. I talked about the Jonathan Taylor situation again, so he's probably droppable for some of the guys that we'll talk about. Colt McCoy again left Sunday's game, did not return with a concussion. That one, obviously, no one's really banking on Colt McCoy. It's just really more of a concern there for the Arizona pass catchers. So watch out for that situation. And then in Cincinnati, they've already lost edge rusher Trey Hendrickson to a wrist injury for a few weeks. Now it looks like they're going to lose the other edge in Sam Hubbard for some time as he's dealing with a calf injury.
Mm.
That's important because those two players are probably two of the most important players on that Cincinnati defense that make that pass rush go. And as we saw yesterday, they were down 21-0 very early. And we saw what that meant for Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins and so on and so forth. So maybe, just maybe going forward here, Joe Burrow and this offense are going to have to score more points.
Oh
Just
yeah,
maybe.
absolutely. They're gonna have to, they've been a high-powered offense, all season, but definitely gonna have to. Maybe we get a cap of, ultimate next level, of this offense for sure. Yeah.
Let's discuss some waivers, Greg. And I mean, what are we doing at quarterback this week?
There's only really two names I could really bring up. I mean, Zach Wilson, 7%, going against Jacksonville this Thursday. Actually, Thursday is short week, so it's pretty much unlikely right now that Mike White is gonna go. It's gonna be Zach Wilson again, and the matchup is pretty good. The secondary of Jacksonville, got rid of the reason why I thought Dak having a down year was gonna have a good week because he's going against Jacksonville. And then if it's the same case for Zach Wilson, he should have good matchups on the outside. And I'm gonna hope that he can get a performance like he did this week. 300 yards, close to that would be nice, and at least two passing touchdowns. I think that's a solid expectation for him. And Brock Purdy, 20% rostered, going against Washington football team next week. Was saying it. He's a solid super flex option. He's a solid option if you couldn't get Zach Wilson. And, a lot of these quarterbacks are rostered, a lot of good ones, a lot of the good ones that are matchup proof. So, yeah, I think Brock Purdy won't kill you.
Yeah, definitely agree with both of those guys there. Greg, let's talk about running backs. This one could be where the fantasy championships are won right here.
Yeah.
Some of these running back pickups. So what do we got?
Yeah, definitely number one for me is Deion Jackson. 7% rostered. In those 2 weeks, kind of where Jonathan Taylor was kind of hurt, Deion Jackson had 39 total touches. 14 receptions on a 100% catch rate. He didn't drop a ball. He didn't miss a pass. Matt Ryan or whoever the quarterback was going to him on dump offs in a situation like that. Zach Moss will be involved too, but I don't think it'll be as much of a. He's 3% rostered. I think Deion, he'll probably be more in that Naheem Hines role when he was there. And Naheem Hines wasn't, he got hurt, but also I think he wasn't too much of a factor. I think RB3 at best. Deion Jackson, I think, has RB1 upside. Definitely reckon him as a solid RB2. Tyler Algier, he's 37% rostered. He got 18 total touches. Over the last 2 weeks, he's been getting the opportunity as well. So look to put him out there, especially with Cordell Patterson not playing. He's struggling. He's been pretty much off the face of off the face of the earth fantasy wise. He's going to step up on a team that wants to run the ball. Triple Hubbard, 39% rostered, got 7 receptions over the last 2 weeks. He's looking better than Dante Foreman right now. So I think in deeper leagues, I think he can be RB3 play. And then last two names, Marlon Mack and Jalen Warren. Marlon Mack more so. In Denver, looking like the running back of choice in this Denver offense. They're probably going to try to lean on the run a little more with Brent Ripon in there. So I think Marlon Mack will be continuing to be used a little as well. And Jalen Warren with the Steelers kind of giving up this season, not giving up, but they're losing the season. Looking forward to next season. Don't want to go too hard on Najee Harris, who's been banged up all year. Jalen Warren should continue to get some opportunities in deep leagues.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know. There's like Zach Moss had 24 rush attempts in the absence of Jonathan Taylor to uh, Deion Jackson's. I think it was 10 or 15 rush attempts. Uh, but he also when Zach Moss played 67% of the snaps to Deion Jackson's 31% of the snaps. So I feel like I would go Zach Moss in that situation. I mean, Zach Moss hasn't been great, but it doesn't really. It's not up to us. It's up to the coaches. But um, I think that's all even more of a reason to just go after Tyler Algier. I think he's probably the top guy because he doesn't. I mean, Cordell Patterson is competition, but this seemed like coming out of the bye week, they were like Tyler Algier gives us the best chance to win football games and running the football. So I personally lean Algier in that instance.
Yeah, nah, well, definitely one of those guys, Zach or Dion's gonna come through because the schedule is really nice for Indy running wise. They got Chargers, Giants, and Houston in the season, so it's kind
Yeah,
of the prototypical schedule for a running back.
yeah. I think if you have a roster where you have the space to pick up both and try to make the decision, I would. I mean, I've got a roster where I've got enough space to pick up all three of those guys. So I think I'm going to go ahead and do that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about wide receivers though, Greg. What's up there?
One, the fact that Zay Jones is only 55% rostered is criminal. So go get him out there in those Yahoo leagues for sure. He should be rostered in much more leagues. Second, KJ Osborne, he's 5% rostered. I think he can, he's been hot the last couple of weeks. I think he can kind of, sneak into that usage that, we will see from Adam Thielen usually. He's had a down year. Justin Jefferson, again, is going to get a lot of attention. I think Kirk Cousins, if he has to put in the air a lot, KJ Osborne could be a top 30 play. Chris Moore, 19% rostered. He's got 20 targets over the last 2 weeks. Again, keep monitoring Nico Collins and Brandon Cooks. So if they continue to stay out, there's no one else to throw to. Chris Moore is going to get wide receiver one targets. And then last two names for deep leagues, Russell Gage, 13% rostered. If he is going to continue to eat into kind of Mike Evans usage, he's going to be, in the top 30 conversation for wide receivers. And then Shaheed, 1% rostered last couple weeks, and then after the bye, rookies after the bye, one, and then he was able to get used, and he's definitely talented, very fast, big play receiver. So especially in deep leagues, he could possibly, if you're shallow, I mean, looking for what maybe wide receiver desperate, I think he's a good dart play.
Yeah, I forgot to take the L on Chris Moore. He was my wide receiver start of the week. Only had 4 catches, 42 receiving yards, but did have 9 targets,
Dang, he's still out there.
which is what we were
Right.
chasing. We were chasing the 9 targets there. Just didn't come through. So I do like that he's continuing to see that volume. Nico Collins could come back, and then it could make it a tricky situation. But they do get Tennessee next week, which outside of what the Chargers did is a fantastic matchup for wide receivers.
Yeah.
All right, what about tight end, Greg? It's the
Tight end, we're
toughest
looking at,
position.
yeah, man, toughest position. But three names we've been saying all year: Jawan Johnson, 20%. Just kind of went on a description of what he's been doing the last couple of weeks, especially touchdown wise. Um, uh, Noah Fant, 22% rostered. He's got 5+ targets and at least 2 of the last 3 weeks. Touchdown in the last in those two of the last 3 weeks as well. I think both of these guys are, again, not gonna kill you. I think give you the best chance of getting opportunity of getting end zone and get a safe floor. And then Taysom Hill, man, he's obviously got the highest upside of all these tight ends, 47% rostered all year. He's just been, that guy where he can, give you, a double-digit plus day with one play, or possibly give you single digits. But more often than not, he has been giving you decent performances.
Yeah, definitely. You know, it's rough at the tight end position, but you have to try to make do and catch these streams that we're giving out and this waiver advice that Greg is consistently giving out each week. So, without further ado, Greg, let's kind of close this one out. Do you need anything, Greg, in terms of a Monday Night Miracle?
No, man, I'm pretty good in Dynasty. I even took advantage of my lineup. I took it at 100% instead of 99%. So we're good in that end. And my 16-team league, I have a defensive player, but I'm up, so I'm chilling right now. I'm looking real nice for next week. Hopefully, get through the semis. That's always been a Achilles heel, the semifinal round. It's tough.
Yeah, man. In Dynasty, I'm up. I think I'm up like 15 or 16. I got Aaron Jones. My opponent has Packers linebacker Devondre Campbell. So
okay,
that's always fun when you got an offensive player versus defensive player and you already got a lead. It also makes the game more interesting when they're on different sides of the football because you get to see the action happen. And then obviously the one I led off with in the League of Extraordinary People, I need Christian Watson to outscore Alan Lazard by 22.8. So possible. Probably not probable. But you're telling me there's a chance. So I will watch that game, eyes glued, hoping for that chance.
Wide receiver one to kill the Rams this year. That's so Watson's the wide receiver one right now. He's gonna kill you.
And he's Greg's start of the week. So
here you go.
Need some of that good juju, Greg. All right, y'all. Until then, we hope you get whatever you need in this Monday Night Miracle, and we will see y'all on Wednesday when we break down Thursday Night Football between the Jacksonville Jaguars and the New York Jets. Both teams need this win. Jets basically need to win out to make the playoffs. Jacksonville's got to basically win out to have a shot at winning the division. So we'll see what goes on here. But until next time, we'll catch y'all later. Have a good one. And we're out of here. Peace.
We out.